3 months after Ricky Gervais was physically escorted from Good Morning America for mocking George Stephanopoulos' journalistic pretensions, the British comedian returned to the ABC studios last night. But this wasn't a reconciliation. Gervais came armed with devastating evidence about Stephanopoulos' hypocrisy that would leave the host's credibility permanently shattered. What started as ABC's attempt to boost ratings with a controversial rematch became the most brutal takedown in morning television history. But the real story began when Gervais's team discovered something about Stephanopoulos that changed everything. The Times Square studios were electric with anticipation and dread. ABC executives had convinced themselves that bringing Gervais back would create viral content and massive ratings. They'd negotiated for weeks, finally agreeing to Gervais's terms: complete creative freedom, no censorship, and most importantly, live broadcast with no delay. Stephanopoulos had initially resisted, but ABC's ratings had been plummeting since their last confrontation, and executives insisted this would rehabilitate his image. Therefore, he'd spent weeks preparing with media coaches and comedy writers, thinking he could match Gervais wit for wit. But what he didn't know was that Gervais had spent 3 months investigating every aspect of his career, and he'd found gold. The show opened with visible tension. Robin Roberts looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Michael Strahan maintained his distance from Stephanopoulos, their chemistry still fractured from previous incidents. Stephanopoulos himself appeared confident, having prepared what he thought were clever comebacks and sharp retorts. He opened with a monologue full of self-deprecating jokes about their last encounter, trying to show he could take a joke. But the forced laughter from the audience showed nobody was buying his sudden sense of humor. Therefore, by the time Gervais was announced, everyone knew this wasn't going to be a normal interview. "Please welcome back Ricky Gervais," Stephanopoulos announced with fake enthusiasm, adding, "Let's see if security's on standby." The attempted joke fell flat. Gervais walked out with his characteristic casual swagger, wearing jeans and a black t-shirt that said, "I told you so." The audience erupted in genuine applause, many standing immediately. He sat down with exaggerated comfort, putting his feet up on the coffee table again. "Ricky, welcome back. I hope we can keep things civil this time," Stephanopoulos said, trying to establish control. "Civil? Mate, you had me physically removed for telling jokes. That's not civil, that's fascist. But don't worry, I'm not here for jokes today. I'm here for truth," Gervais replied. "Truth?" Stephanopoulos asked nervously. "Yeah, truth. That thing you used to care about before you became a teleprompter puppet. Should we start with your Clinton years, or jump straight to your corporate sellout phase?" Gervais asked casually. Therefore, the attack began immediately. Stephanopoulos tried to deflect. "We're here to discuss your new comedy special." "No, we're here because your ratings are in the toilet and you need me for relevance." "But sure, let's discuss comedy." "Like the joke that you call yourself a journalist," Gervais interrupted. He pulled out a folder. "I've been doing research, George. Proper journalism, ironically. Want to know what I found?" he asked. Without waiting for an answer, Gervais continued. "This is a list of every story you killed at ABC because it would hurt corporate sponsors. 73 stories, George. About pharmaceutical companies, health insurance, corporate fraud. You buried them all," he revealed. "That's not true," Stephanopoulos protested. "Here are the emails. From you. Should I read them?" "This one's good. Kill the Pfizer story. They're paying us millions." "That's not journalism, mate. That's prostitution," Gervais said. The audience gasped. Robin Roberts looked shocked. But Gervais was just warming up. "You want to know what's funnier? You lecture comedians about responsibility while taking money from companies that literally kill people. I tell jokes about celebrities. You help corporations hide bodies. Who's really the irresponsible one?" he asked. "You're making serious accusations," Stephanopoulos said, his face reddening. "I'm making documented statements. There's a difference. You should know, being a journalist and all," Gervais replied with air quotes. Therefore, he stood up and addressed the audience. "This man sits here every morning pretending to inform you. But he's actually misinforming you. He's not a newsman. He's a corporate spokesman with better hair. Well, transplanted hair, but still," he said. This is defamation, Stephanopoulos started. Truth is a defense against defamation. Everything I'm saying is documented. Want me to show the receipts? I've got thousands of pages, Gervais offered, pulling out more documents. But then he revealed something even more devastating. You know what's really interesting? Your investment portfolio. You own stock in every company you refuse to criticize. Pharmaceutical companies, defense contractors, health insurers. You're not just biased, George. You're bought, he said. Michael Strahan surprisingly spoke up. Is this true, George? Don't answer him, Michael. Let me. Gervais interjected. It's all true. Public records. He just thought nobody would bother looking. But I'm a comedian with too much time and a grudge. Dangerous combination, he said with a grin. Therefore, he pulled out his phone. Want to hear something funny? Not comedy funny, but corruption funny. This is a recording of you from 2018, discussing how to frame a story to protect a sponsor, he said. He played the recording. Stephanopoulos' voice filled the studio. We need to make it seem like the drug company is the victim here. Emphasize the jobs, downplay the deaths. The usual spin. The audience booed. Several people walked out in disgust. But Gervais wasn't finished. That drug killed 47 people, George. You helped cover it up for advertising money. But I'm the irresponsible one for making fun of James Corden, he asked. You don't understand how television works, Stephanopoulos said desperately. I understand perfectly. You sold your soul for a morning show. You traded journalism for celebrity interviews. You became everything you once investigated. That's not evolution, mate. That's decomposition, Gervais replied. But then he delivered the most personal blow. Your son told his friends his dad is a corporate puppet. Your daughter refuses to tell people what you do. Your own kids are ashamed of you. But sure, lecture me about comedy, he said. Stephanopoulos stood up, shaking with rage. How dare you bring my family? Sit down, George. I'm not done. Gervais commanded with such authority that Stephanopoulos actually sat. You brought my comedy into this. You questioned my integrity. Now we're examining yours. And surprise, you don't have any, he said. Therefore, he revealed more damaging information. Your wife, Ollie? She's been meeting with divorce lawyers. Turns out being married to a hollow corporate shill gets old. She told my manager at a charity event. Said living with you is like living with a press release, he said. That's private, Stephanopoulos protested weakly. So it was my material until you decided to police it. Privacy is a luxury you gave up when you attacked me, Gervais replied. He turned back to the audience. This is your trusted news source, folks. A man who lies for money, covers up corporate crimes, and thinks you're too stupid to handle real news. Still trust him with your morning information? He asked. Security, Stephanopoulos started to call. Go ahead, call them again. Have me removed again. Show America what you do to people who tell the truth. It worked so well last time, Gervais laughed. But Robin Roberts intervened. No, George. He's right. We've all been complicit in this. The corporate control, the buried stories, the fake journalism. It needs to be said, she said. The betrayal from his co-host was devastating. Stephanopoulos looked around for support, but found none. Even the crew was avoiding eye contact. Therefore, Gervais delivered his final destruction. You know what the difference is between us, George? My audience knows I'm taking the piss. Yours thinks you're telling the truth. I'm honest about being dishonest. You're dishonest about being honest. Which one of us is really more dangerous? He asked. You're ruining my career, Stephanopoulos said, almost pleading. No, mate. You ruined your career the day you chose corporate money over truth. I'm just the comedian pointing out that the emperor has no clothes. And speaking of clothes, that suit costs more than most Americans make in a month. But sure, you're a man of the people, Gervais said. He stood up to leave, but turned back one more time. Oh, and George, that story about chemical contamination in drinking water that you killed last month? The Guardian's running it tomorrow, with emails showing you buried it. Good luck with that, he revealed. The studio was in complete chaos. The producers were frantically calling executives. The audience was in uproar. But Gervais walked off calmly, calling out as he left. To everyone watching, demand better. Don't accept corporate propaganda as news. Don't let them treat you like idiots. You deserve truth, not sponsored content. And George, mate, thanks for having me back. This was even more fun than last time, he said. Within minutes, #Gervais exposes everything was trending globally. The recordings and documents he'd referenced were being leaked online. News outlets worldwide picked up the story. The scandal dominated every platform. ABC went into full crisis mode. Emergency meetings were called. Lawyers were consulted. The network faced potential criminal investigation for the cover-ups Gervais had exposed. Stephanopoulos was suspended immediately pending investigation. The evidence Gervais had presented was too damaging to ignore. His career in journalism was effectively over. But the real impact went beyond one man. The entire structure of morning television news was exposed as compromised. The merger of entertainment and information, the corporate control of content, the systematic burial of important stories, it all came out. Gervais released a statement. "I didn't return to GMA for comedy. I returned for catharsis." George Stephanopoulos represents everything wrong with American media. Corporate control masquerading as journalism. "If exposing that makes me the bad guy, I'll wear that badge proudly. At least I'm an honest bad guy," he said. The fallout continued for months. Stephanopoulos was forced to resign. Multiple executives were fired. ABC implemented new journalism standards, though many remained skeptical of real change. But that morning, all anyone saw was Ricky Gervais systematically destroying a man who tried to censor him. He'd returned not for reconciliation, but for revenge, and he'd served it ice cold with receipts. He'd proven that comedians could do better journalism than journalists when the journalists had sold out. At 52, Gervais had shown that comedy's greatest power wasn't making people laugh, but making them think. And he'd done it by destroying someone who'd forgotten that journalism's greatest power was supposed to be the same thing.